Hey friends, this is the first in a series of videos on risk that I'll be presenting until the end of this month. And hopefully these topics are helpful to you and give you a sense of what we find important at PatternCast in the quality of our service and also for the success of our customers. All right. And this is number one on unrealistic expectations, how to manage that. And you can see the rest of them right here. And I'll be producing one of these each day until the end of the month. But in this video, I want to talk to you about probably the most important advice that I give to beginning traders. And this is something I usually ask of every subscriber that comes on board to PatternCast or any of the new coaching clients that I take on. And that is, what is your ultimate goal with trading? What do you want to get out of it? I mean, just think about it. What is not the end game, but what is the plateau where you want to be? So if you said, I'd like to trade for a living. In other words, I want to become a professional. Then you're going to need to come to realize that it's going to be a process. Your goal is pretty ambitious. And there are a very select few people that actually become professional traders. That doesn't mean that you can't. It's just that everybody chooses a different path. So let's talk about both the right way to get towards that goal and the wrong way. But let's start with the wrong way. What I've noticed is that there is, when a beginning trader, and when I say beginning trader, I'm talking about even if you've been trading for a long time, but you've been directionless, you haven't had any formal training, or you have never had a mentor. What usually happens is that, or you could be what I'm going to describe later in this video, in this sort of cycle, this cycle of corruption, where you just keep on learning the wrong way to go about things. But usually what happens is that you'll come across a strategy, and you'll start trading that strategy, and you may find some modicum of success. You may start by investing in a small amount of capital, and it feels good because you're winning. And so then you probably say to yourself something like, well, or you make this mistake and you say it to your wife or a good friend. If I'm making some pretty good money here, and if I just scaled up this strategy, I'm probably going to make enough that I can actually quit my job and do this full time. Only if I just scaled up, I could actually replace my income and realize my ultimate goal of being a full-time trader. So some of you may have actually taken that leap of faith. You've quit your job. The excitement builds. You set up your office, you fund your trading account, and you dive deep, right into the deep end, right into the unknown, all with this kind of faith that you're going to succeed, based on this modicum of success that you had. And things may be going okay until you experience something that you've never experienced before, at least not at this scale, and that is your first drawdown. Sure, you had the drawdowns when you were trading this same strategy, but at a smaller scale, but it didn't seem like much. I mean, what is it to risk $50 or $100 or $200? I mean, that's no big deal. But now that you've bulked up, you're doing the same trade, but you hit it with what would be a normal drawdown, but instead of losing that $100, $200, now it's $1,000, $3,000, even $5,000, and what happens? You panic. And most likely, that kind of puts you into this incredible mindset, this kind of, a lot of people describe this in poker as going on tilt, where you just start making poor decisions. That panic, that fear of missing out on something, or that fear of losing it all, or wondering what you're doing wrong, maybe there is something that you missed, causes you to get off of your plan if you had one, or forget the strategy, and before you know it, you've blown up your account. So what's the problem here? You've you've gone under the mistaken notion that simply taking a particular strategy or a service or whatever it happens to be and scaling it will give you a scaled up version of what you were achieving before. When what was really necessary was that you were not prepared for the magnitude of that change. I mean, when you go from, say, X size account, and then you try to bring it up to 10X or 20X, there's so much more that happens as opposed to just some multiplication factor. There's all kinds of situations, scenarios, things that you have to learn, a toughness that you have to develop in managing that risk. So, but what happens in reality is that now you've got to go and explain to your wife what you did, and perhaps go back to your job, crawling back to your old boss and beg for your position back. And while you may still have a marriage left, you've been emotionally scarred. Maybe not only you, but maybe also your wife, now that you're $5,000 or $10,000 short on your bank account. And your boss may have you on a short leash, and you're no closer to that goal of financial freedom that you were hoping for. In fact, you may have actually wiped out that pipe dream, and at some point, you're going to develop that need again. Everybody goes through it. You really feel that maybe this time is the right time. But why did this happen? It's because that you are setting unreal expectations. You just didn't go about it the right way. So what is the right way? Well, the right way starts with slow and steady, building scale over time, gaining knowledge, absorbing the experience, collecting your bruises, and developing into a solid trader with more than one strategy, where you know your edge. You have a good understanding of risk management, position sizing, and how to manage your profits while into the trade, and where you can actually take profit. The reality is that no one becomes a professional trader out of the gate, and here's a dose of a big dose of reality. That is that it takes time. The thing is, most people aren't prepared for or are willing to accept the amount of time that it actually takes. The other thing is that you need to scale slowly. And that process can literally take years for most people. Some people will never get there because they simply never have the right mindset, never get the right instruction. But at a minimum, you can expect it to take 12 to 18 months. Now, you might be one of those out-of-the-box traders that just has incredible acumen and an intuitive nature, and you pick it up very quickly. Maybe you have somebody that's helping you along, and maybe it only takes you 6 months to a year, but that's like less than 1% of the people. Those are the exceptional ones. Now, you may be that. I'm not saying that you're not. I'm just saying that it's unlikely. And like I said, for most, it takes a couple of years. But that's only after you've built up this sort of strong foundation and a resilience to risk and an attitude, the muscle memory. See, risk isn't something that you beat. It's something that you feed on. And when you've developed solid trading skills, you know when to feed off of it. Because in the words of Nietzsche, it will not kill you. It will only make you stronger. You have to develop this kind of anti-fragile acumen, attitude. You'll also develop that kind of spidey tingle when you know how to avoid it, when you know that volatility and risk are simply too much to bear and know when to sidestep it. These are things that come, again, with experience. It takes practice and skill, the accumulation of wisdom, and that only comes from time. Unfortunately, some people never learn the cycle. And let me sort of repeat what that cycle is. You start with this small amount of success. You develop these sort of delusions of grandeur. You take that leap of faith, supported only by hopium. You scale up irrationally, throw caution to the wind, And then eventually you get bitten by that scaled risk. Panic sets in. You go on tilt. You blow up another account. The jaw drops. You go on to blame others. And then you crawl back into your hole. And hopefully that you can survive going forward. So how do you break this cycle? Well, as I mentioned earlier, it can take time. And it really is the number one way to break that cycle, is to gain the experience under the correct tutelage, doing the right thing, learning how to, and what are good setups? What are setups that have edge? I mean, these are only lessons that you'll develop and lessons that will be learned over time. It's probably very important also that you gain a mentor or some serious training or work with a prop firm or something like that. Because until you do that, and until you understand that volatility is actually your friend and not your enemy, you're doomed to repeat this cycle of failure. Now, and like I said, there's ways to shortcut this. I mean, one is to find a mentor or a service that can provide support and a quality strategy or signals, like PatternCast, links below. That is one way to shortcut it, but it still will not. I mean, even the people that come into our service, we try to tell them that, unless you are already a seasoned trader and you're coming in here to take our signals for the quality that they have, and what that edge is, and you've already developed that acumen. This is just another strategy that you're going to put into your arsenal. Then you have to be prepared to spend the time. And that's really what it is. It's all about time. So, as I said, this video is a series on risk management. Look for the next one. Each one bringing you a little bit closer, all of us closer, to the end of the month, where the specials that we currently have on PatternCast will end. That's right, they end on the end of the month, so take a look at that. And this is only for our yearly membership. Really, we're giving some great deals here. And look for the next video, which should be, we'll probably do it on trading plans. Thanks. We'll see you next video.